Drew Barker. I'm an economics major and a student research assistant in my third year here at the University of West Georgia. I will be presenting for you my research project entitled The Evolution of Health and Older Age Labor Force Participation. I initially chose my research project due to my interest in recent trends in the labor market. For example, you see in this graph here, that is the labor participation rate for all individuals aged 55 and older. It steadily increased from 1992 to 2012. One thing that makes this trend stand out is that this trend is common across race, gender, and all age groups above 55. Even the oldest age group, 75 and older, is still increasing participation rates. The reason these are relevant is that these trends may influence labor market outcomes in younger age groups, such as through them competing harder for jobs, lower participation, higher unemployment due to older, more skilled workers competing for their jobs. So how do health outcomes affect labor market participation? Like my research, I examined the effect of health conditions on the labor force participation of all individuals aged 55 and older. If we look at health trends, health has been steadily improving. At the same time, the labor force participation rate for these individuals has been increasing. Mortality, life expectancy has been increasing for individuals aged 65 and older. The mortality rates of the leading causes of death have been on the decline. Health can certainly be an important factor in the labor force participation decision. Negative health outcomes may prevent people from being able to work, discourage them working, or even completely preventing them. So accordingly, explicit declines in negative health outcomes may actually incentivize participation. Recent literature on the increasing labor force participation of older individuals has studied various demographic and economic factors. These findings include the influence of wives' participation decisions, and their increasing labor force participation has led to older males increasing their labor force participation as well. Increases in educational attainment have also increased the labor force participation rate. State-level economic factors have found to be significant determinants as well. These recent studies, however, have not focused on health as a driving factor behind the increasing participation rate. In order to determine if health is indeed an important factor in the recent increase in labor force participation, I collected data from the 2011 Panel Study of Income Dynamics, or PSID to keep it easy. The original sample contained 24,661 individuals. There were only 4,268 over the age of 55. After removing all individuals with missing observations, my final data set contained 3,633. I took employment status reported in the PSID to create a dummy variable equal to 1 if the individual does participate and 0 if the individual does not. For my health measures, I use objective reports of diagnosis of specific health conditions in order to avoid the possibility that labor force participation may affect self-reported health status. The health conditions that I use are heart disease, stroke, lung disease, diabetes, arthritis, cancer, or other chronic conditions. I code these 3 separate ways. First, I have a dummy variable for each individual condition. Second, I have a dummy variable that equals 1 if the individual is diagnosed with any condition. And third, I have a variable measuring the number of conditions diagnosed. For my control variables, I use race, sex, state, marital status, age, and years of education completed. In order to estimate the effect of health on labor force participation, I estimate probit models in the form of the following equation, where the probability that individual I participates in labor force is modeled as a function of the health measures of that individual, as well as a vector of controls that have been found to influence the labor force participation decision. In order to get a complete picture of the effect of health, I use 3 separate models. In the first model, I use a dummy variable to measure any condition. In order to disaggregate the effects of different health conditions, I use dummy variables for each individual condition. Those again are heart disease, stroke, lung disease, arthritis, diabetes, cancer, or other condition. In my third and final model, I use the number of conditions variable. I use the same controls in each of my model. Age is included to control for the fact that the older you are, the less likely you are to participate in the 55 and older range, of course. Race and sex should control just for demographic factors. State of residence controls for state fixed effects and should as well capture any differences in state economics. Marital status controls for differences between single and married individuals, and should also capture any potential effects from the spouse's labor force participation decisions. Years of education should control for the positive relationship between more education and higher likelihood to participate. The following table here reports my coefficient results for all three program models. We see that both the any condition and number of conditions variables are actually significant beyond the 0.01 level. Interestingly enough, though, the any condition actually has a larger coefficient effect. We can kind of unpack this a little by looking at the individual condition variables, because certain conditions may not actually affect labor force participation as much as others. So while the more conditions you have, obviously you're going to be less likely to participate. On average, it might be smaller, certain conditions won't affect as much. Heart disease, stroke, and arthritis are all significant beyond the 0.01 level. Obviously, these all have the expected deterrent effect. You get these conditions, you're not going to be likely to participate. Diabetes is significant at the 0.05 level, and lung disease, cancer, and other are not significant at either level. The coefficients of the control variables mostly have the expected effects. One notable exception was that marital status did not seem to have a significant effect on the labor force participation model. This seems to suggest that while a spouse's participation decision may be an important factor in older males' participation, it does not explain much of the overall increase in labor force participation. One potential concern is that wealth may potentially be a significant determinant of labor force participation. To make sure my results are robust to the inclusion of wealth, I run a probit model with labor force participation as the dependent binary variable, and family wealth in thousands of dollars is the independent variable. While I do find that wealth is a statistically significant factor affecting labor force participation, it's a very small coefficient, and the probit ran gives us a very small pseudo R-square, so it should not significantly affect the model. However, I wanted to make sure that was not the case, so in addition to that, I also included alternate measures of wealth in my original probit model. I include the amount in the individual's pension and the value of the individual's IRA. They return similar results, that these wealth controls are indeed significant factors in the labor force participation decision. However, they did not change my coefficients on my health variables by much, nor did it remove any significance. So this suggests that my results are robust to the inclusion of wealth. In my research, I find that health is one of the most significant factors in older individuals' labor force participation. Heart disease, stroke, and arthritis in particular are the most influential factors. Another interesting find is that diabetes is also pretty significant at the 0.05 level. Further research could examine this and determine whether it's the symptoms of diabetes or, say, maybe it's the potential causes such as obesity that are the deterrent factors within this. I find that my results are robust in the inclusion of other determinants such as wealth, education, and marital status. And also my results suggest that health initiatives aimed at reducing negative health outcomes may have secondary impacts on labor force participation. Thank you for your time.